Alrighty, everybody, it is about that time to get started today. We'll give it a quick moment for everybody to pile in. I know we got a lot of things going on, so it might take everybody a couple more seconds to jump in here. But everybody, just first and foremost, wanted to introduce myself. My name is Sam Jameson with the Eventbrite Customer Experience Team, and today we're here to talk digital marketing, Facebook and Instagram ads to help promote your events. Just give it a little bit of time for everybody to pile in, but I always love making these nice, fun, interactive sessions. So let's just start off. Anybody in the chat, please let me know where you are listening in from today. If you got a beverage, I got some green tea here myself. Let me know what you're sipping on today. Hope everybody's having themselves a blessed day so far, and we'll just give it a quick moment for everybody to pile in. And additionally, there is a very slight delay on the YouTube chat as well, so sometimes takes a quick second for your comments or questions to pile in. But as we go, I always love for this to be interactive. My main goal here is to empower you at the end of the day, give you the knowledge that you want to be receiving in terms of how I can be marketing my event. So please feel free to ask questions. I have a habit of going a little bit too quick sometimes, so please feel free to slow me down. If there's something you're feeling a little bit fuzzy on, more than happy to reiterate and slow it down. But we got Adam drinking some yerba mate. I've been on a little caffeine break, so a yerba mate would send me through the roof. But always love myself a good yerb. And we've got Yvonne from Mobile, Alabama. Thank you both so much. I appreciate your comments and thank you very much for joining us today. I know there's probably a million more fun things that we could be doing than talking about digital marketing and Facebook ads. So I just wanted to thank you very much, and I really appreciate you for spending your time here with us today. We also have Natasha, with some chamomile tea. We got another tea drinker. We got a good amount of tea drinkers in the chat today. Natasha from New York, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time as well. So, y'all, before we jump in today, just want to give you a brief little agenda of what we are going to be covering. First and foremost, we're just going to give you a little context on, what exactly is Eventbrite Boost, whether you are a existing Eventbrite creator that's been with us for a while, or you are a new creator. Just want to give you some context of what we'll be talking about today. Then we'll be jumping into some examples of some really successful campaigns run by some of the top tier event promoters, and then we'll actually be going and diving into the setup to basically show you how you can basically repeat and create these same campaigns. But additionally, I always like to spend a good amount of time on the why of why you should actually be doing these things. So whether or not if you're using Eventbrite Boost or something like Facebook Ads Manager, you're just getting a good takeaway and feeling empowered at the end of the day. To give you a little background or context of where I started doing digital marketing. I was actually a concert photographer in a venue up in the Berkeley, California area called the UC Theater. I was taking all the photos for all the shows, and they're like, "Hey, we need somebody to run our ads." As I know, many of you are one man or one woman or one person shops, basically running everything for your entire business. So they needed somebody to help fill a role for marketing, and I actually started and stepped into that role using the same platform that we're going to be talking about today. So I just want to assure you, if you don't have a ton of experience with digital marketing, this is new to you, it seemed foreign in the past, don't sweat it, as I've been there myself. And the question I always wanted to know was, what's the why of why we'd actually be doing things? So that's just what I want to be giving y'all today. But let's just go ahead and I guess we'll jump into it. And I feel like for a lot of us, we might have ran an ad campaign before, tried to approach something like digital marketing, especially if it's not our area of expertise. We all have so many different hats. It can feel like a real big challenge for a lot of us. And I think a few of the main reasons is a lot of times, we're not the CEO or like the CMO over at PepsiCo or something like that with a multi-million-dollar ad budget, a team of like 20 interns or something like that to run all our ads. It's normally one of us working with limited resources, whether that be money and or time, and we're just trying to get the best effectiveness for what we're actually doing and trying to accomplish. A lot of it, feels like squeezing lemons. We're just trying to get as much juice as we possibly can out of what we are doing. So a couple of the reasons personally why I think event marketing or just digital marketing in general seems really challenging is first and foremost, most of the best in class tools are either kind of too complex or too expensive to actually meet our needs. And second, they're not even kind of built for people like us in the event space. They're meant for people spending millions of dollars on ads to interpret all this data, like data science backgrounds and stuff like that. But that's not really where most of us find ourselves in. And then, second, even if we kind of, we are pretty experienced with it and stuff like that, a lot of times we just simply don't have enough time to allocate to learning these skills. Taking something like Facebook Blueprint, one of those classes, is a pretty hefty time kind of investment that would actually require you to sit down, learn a lot of info, and then not all that info is even going to be relevant to you. I personally have done Facebook Blueprint, and for event marketing, literally probably only 30% of the content is actually relevant to what you need to be doing. So it can sometimes even be a waste of time to do classes like that, even though you're thinking it's kind of giving you this full picture. And then lastly, even once you take that plunge, get in the pool, a lot of times when we're looking at the data of the campaigns we've ran, it feels so segmented or fragmented that, even us that are pretty smart and savvy about this type of stuff kind of have a hard time digesting and making sense of that data. So our whole purpose or ethos with Eventbrite Boost is, let's take a combination of both free and paid tools for event creators of all different types of events, all different types of budgets, to give you a one-stop shop so that you have all the tools that you need to properly get your event in front of new prospects, remarket to your existing customers, regardless of what different types of budgets that you're working with. So kind of the main thing that we'll be focusing on today is going to be around the Facebook and Instagram advertising. So to just give you a little context where you'll even find this in the first place, if you go into that Manage Events section where you normally build your events in Eventbrite, click on the Marketing tab in the top left. You can go to this section and you'll see a combination of different tools here to go ahead and get started. And to briefly talk about some of those, y'all, if I could give you any takeaway today, just like a free thing that you can do that's really impactful for your events, make sure you are using the Add Your Event to Facebook feature. And the whole reason of why this is important is simply publishing your event to Facebook. It does wonders in helping people actually RSVP to your event so they don't forget about it. If you get a little social proof and traction on the event, Facebook will help you push it out organically for you. And then also, this plays really well into a common ad component that we do where we actually kind of boost these Facebook events in front of kind of a larger group of people. So, y'all, if I could give you any takeaway, please make sure you use the Add Your Event to Facebook. It literally only takes a minute or two to do for your event, but it's extremely impactful in terms of generating social proof, getting people to kind of RSVP so they don't forget. It's just all around a really, really good tool for you to use. And then we also have the email campaign function. This is one that is one of the most popular marketing tools on Eventbrite, period, that's been around for a really long time. We basically just kind of repackaged this bad boy into Boost as well, but a fantastic tool if you aren't trying to look to invest in a more expensive tool like Constant Contact or MailChimp, and you're just trying to get some pretty customizable emails out to your prospects or your previous buyers, just giving them the scoop on what are the upcoming events that you have and all the exciting things that you are working on. But today's focus, everybody, is mainly going to be on the advertise on Facebook or Instagram. So let's go ahead and get started. Feel free to drop questions. Feel free to slow me down. I just want to make sure that all of you are getting some really good info today. Whether or not you're a Boost user, that you're kind of learning and hopefully making this feel like a little bit less of an intimidating process, as I know it was pretty intimidating for me as I was getting started. So let's go ahead and jump in. The first thing that you'll notice about Eventbrite Boost is we've really tried to kind of repackage and redesign, the main things that you actually would leverage in something like Facebook Ads Manager, combining it with substantial time-saving tools to help you get the best bang for the buck out of the campaigns that you're running, but then also making it that the data that you actually receive from these campaigns is a lot more digestible for what we're actually trying to accomplish from the campaigns. I know sometimes if you're looking at a campaign in Ads Manager, first and foremost, the data that you actually need to see is not going to be there unless you kind of set up specific views to see stuff like that. And then it kind of feels like we're just looking at a maze or just looking at like an Excel spreadsheet trying to figure out what the heck's going on. So we really have tried to kind of simplify the data that you're actually seeing here for the stuff that's most relevant and most important for your knowledge of actually marketing your events. So up top, we can see here that this creator kind of invested around 275 bucks in this campaign, and they made around 6K back worth in ticket sales, around a 20x return on ad spend. I just want to say too, if you're not seeing a 20x return on ad spend too as well, or making $20 back for every dollar you spend on ads, don't worry, this 100% is a better than average. This is a biased example. I'm just trying to show you what kind of the top players in the field are actually doing. And also, I don't know if you've heard many things in the news about security and privacy changes to Apple devices and things like that, iOS 14. There's a lot of reasons nowadays that somebody might make a purchase from your ad, traditionally it kind of got tied back, but you're not able to track it to the degree that you used to. So I just wanted to let you know if you're not kind of seeing the same results on this ad, don't be too hard on yourself as this is a standout example, but I just wanted to give you the context of, what are the absolute best people here doing. And then we also try to simplify, how many people did you end up reaching? How many people did you get in front of with the ad you were running? How many people actually ended up interacting with your ad and are now available for you to retarget? Retargeting is an extremely important element and actually something that's really difficult to do for your campaigns in Ads Manager. You'd almost have to spend like 15 minutes building like 5 separate audiences. Kind of the analogy I could give is like it's almost something like HelloFresh. So, basically you get the ingredients or the audiences you need when you're building the campaign or cooking that meal instead of having to go shopping, get all those ingredients, prep them yourself, and then make the meal. That's kind of an analogy of what we do when it comes to a target audience perspective. And then we also help optimize your budget. So if we kind of scroll down a little bit more, tons of numbers on your screen. Each row just kind of represents a different group of people that we're going after in targeting with the ad campaign. And not every individual or not every audience is going to be purchasing or registering for your event at the same cost or your same rate. It's kind of like what a stock advisor would do for your portfolio. If they manage your portfolio, they know certain sectors are probably going to perform better than others at different parts of the year, and they might move your investment portfolio from one sector to another depending on when those are actually performing best. We do the exact same things with your budget in a way that's specifically been built off how we generally see campaigns for events specifically convert. Facebook has their own style of this, but it really doesn't work well for smaller budgets that we work with events or the way that people purchase and the way that we run campaigns. So what our system does on the back end to just help you actually make more money for what you're doing and help save you time so you don't have to do this manually is every 6 to 12 hours we kind of see how are the audiences in your campaign performing, which ones are performing best, which are performing worst, and then we move budget from the bad performing audiences over to the better performing audiences. So that's kind of one of our major value props of helping you get better bang for the buck and then also save you time in the process of doing so, and then translating to just helping you interpret the data of these campaigns that you're actually seeing a little bit better. And just down towards the bottom, you can also, A/B test different versions of creatives. So maybe you have a couple different images, a couple different videos, you don't know which one's going to do better. It's really easy in our system to kind of slap them both in there, and then we'll optimize for whichever one ends up performing better. So again, just if I could highlight kind of the main value props of what this product actually provides. First and foremost, it's going to save you time in actually building the highest quality campaigns by saving you time and helping you incorporate audiences that are sometimes difficult to consume with optimization. It's going to get you better results and make you more money for the campaigns that you're actually investing in. And then lastly, we're going to present the data in a way that makes it less time consuming for you to make sense of it so that you actually understand what are the most important elements or things that I should be looking at for my campaign. So just wanted to take a brief pause here. I know that was kind of a lot of information, and then we're going to jump into how to build these campaigns. But before we go, did anybody have any questions or things that I can be considering kind of as we go into the campaign creation process? And I promise it'll be a little bit more interactive. So thanks for bearing with us for the main talk point here. And I know the questions might pile in, so just in the interim, let me go ahead and swap this over to our account here. And I'll actually give you a little context on how to go ahead and build campaigns here today. So whenever you hop into Boost to actually build campaigns, one of the first things that you're going to notice is kind of this funky, Frankenstein looking graph that we have right here. Basically, half the battle at y'all of actually running a good ad campaign is choosing what type of campaign are we going to run based on where we are in our event's lifecycle. As we know, urgency is one of the biggest factors for actually getting people to purchase for your events. So let's say, for example, you're advertising an upcoming live stream event that's 5 months out. I know it's not going to sell out. I have no urgency or no incentive if prices aren't going to change for me to actually purchase or register today. So if I was the person that was actually marketing that, if I blew all of my budget on ads right now, I'm probably not going to see any results, and I shouldn't come into it with the expectation that I'm actually going to get results when I wasn't taking a step back to put myself in my buyer's shoes and actually consider what's the urgency of what's going on and would that person be likely to purchase. So half the battle and the biggest mistake I see many individuals run when they run ad campaigns is they're simply just maybe spending too much in a time period where there's no urgency, or they're running the wrong type of campaign depending on the style of urgency that customers currently have at that point. So what we've tried to do with Boost is basically take the knowledge that's, in my head, in my team members' head, that have worked with some of the biggest and smallest, pretty much around the world event creators, in the strategy that we've advised and recommended to them, and automated it via the platform so that you can get the performance of having somebody like me running your ad campaigns, even though you're actually running those ad campaigns yourself. So the easiest way to go ahead and get started is simply just use the drop down to choose what's the upcoming event that you would like to market, and based on how your customers actually purchase. So this graph kind of gives you a plot of when your customers normally purchase or register for your events. What type of campaign should I actually run? So we'll help automate the recommendations for you. If you're a little more savvy, you could always change it up, but it's a good launching point, especially if you're inexperienced, don't really know where to start. This can be a great way for you to ensure I'm running a pretty high quality campaign based on where I am, just with kind of our automation that we have here. So you can see that I'm actually selecting one of the upcoming webinars that we have, and a good amount of people kind of register in this last week leading up to the event. So this is kind of suggesting me to run a campaign where I'm kind of sending people straight to the eventbrite.com link for them to go ahead and register. So we will get started here. And also, y'all, I would love it if you could kind of drop, just let me know what types of events you are actually marketing here. As we get to the targeting step, that's kind of going to be the one that's most different for the different styles of events. There really is a really similar strategy to how I would market a yoga event to a music festival to a Disney on Ice event. Most of the underlying kind of info is still the same, but one of the biggest differences is the different types of targeting. So please let me know what types of events are y'all running, just so I have a little bit of inspiration as I get to that section. So the first step that we have here, and Giselle, thank you very much. Open house events. We got Adam been teaching online vegan cooking classes. Wow, that sounds fantastic. Can you teach me how to do the API Eventbrite? I personally, Palema, don't know as much about the Eventbrite API. You could feel free to email us for our support too if there's extra context, but I myself am not as knowledgeable about that, so I probably wouldn't be your person to help you today. We got Shanann, hope I pronounced your name right. Sip and paint classes. That sounds like a fantastic activity for this Friday night. Let me know when you're in LA. But the first step, everybody, of actually running these campaigns is what's the objective that we're running. So we'll give you a recommended one and let you know why exactly we'd kind of recommend you to run this one, but I also want to give you a little bit of the why of the most common types of campaigns to run and which ones probably would be most beneficial if you actually need to kind of take a step back and use a little of this context yourself. Empowerment for Girls, we are hosting an online yoga and sound healing fundraiser on October 16th. Sounds fantastic, and thank you very much for your comment. So, y'all, normally when it comes to the different types of campaigns we'd run, when you hop into Ads Manager, you're going to see like 16 different types of campaigns you could run. And in all honesty, when it comes to events, there really are only two, maybe three types of ad campaigns that you need to be running. The first one, if you've ever heard the term link click or like reach or kind of conversion campaign on Facebook, kind of a fancy word for saying we're just sending people to your website or like your eventbrite.com ticketing pages, normally wherever it's most easy for them to actually make those purchases. That it would be this option right here. These are the best campaigns to run if you are in a period where you actually know and understand that your customers have urgency to purchase. If your event's really far out, people aren't worried it's going to sell out, or maybe something, it's weather dependent. It's like an outdoor beer fest in the middle of the winter, and we don't know if it's going to snow or something like that. We probably shouldn't come in with the expectation that if we run this type of ad right now and it's really far away, people are going to buy. But this, for example, when I worked in a concert venue where most people bought kind of 1 to 2 weeks after the event went on sale, and then 1 to 2 weeks before the concert, this was kind of the bread and butter that we ran during those periods. So if you want to run this type of ad, just ask, if I was in my customer's shoes, would I be likely to buy right now? If the answer is yes, this is the type you ran. If the answer is no, you might want to run a different type, but you could always, run this type of campaign too. So all you're doing in the first step is choosing like, okay, where do I want to send people with the ad? I just want to let y'all know too, if you are, we're going to be changing this very, very soon, but if any of you are running an event series event, so, weekly reoccurring event, you would actually right now want to use this custom link feature and then just go ahead and grab the link to that Eventbrite event, the multiple page one, and paste it in here. As right now, if you choose one of the series events, it kind of pulls to like an individual date in the series, which definitely isn't the most intuitive right here. We're going to be changing it ASAP, but just wanted to let y'all know if any of you are doing like kind of weekly recurring series events, just for the interim, like next couple weeks, y'all choose the custom link option, paste it in there. We also have like our own smart link tool. If you like using things like Bitly or want links that are branded to yourself, we've got all that here too as well. Or you can always boost Facebook posts as well. A couple comments. Is it possible to make a ticket in bulk or a faster way to make ticketing? For example, I want to make 500 tickets. Palema, I honestly can't answer that question for you. I'm mainly the expert here on the Facebook and Instagram ad side. I don't really handle much on like the Eventbrite.com, manage my events and creation ticketing. So my apologies, I can't answer your question. Feel free to reach out to our support too as well, just so we can get you a little bit more context in there. But I cannot answer your question today and don't want to drag it on any further. So my apologies there. But y'all, kind of getting back to it, for if the other objective, if you're in a period where your customers really aren't that likely to purchase at the moment, I'd recommend run a boosted Facebook event RSVP campaign. I just want to let y'all know, give you a little context. Right now, currently, Facebook is having an issue, at least in our platform, where these Facebook events can't get pulled through. Should be sorted within hopefully the next week or so, but just wanted to let y'all know if you are trying to run this type of campaign. Unfortunately, it's not working right now. Believe me, I'm banging my head against the wall for this one, but these campaigns are the whole reason why I was going on and on about the importance of like promoting or publishing your event over to Facebook in the first place. Is these campaigns, think of them as the best of both worlds. So it uses Eventbrite's embedded checkout, so it's theoretically as easy for people to purchase if you want to send them to like eventbrite.com, kind of same amount of clicks. A lot of times you're not taking people off Facebook, so it's really easy for them to actually make that purchase. So what I would probably recommend is, if you are in a period where you think people might buy, but you're also kind of not sure, there's not maybe a ton of urgency here as well, I'd recommend run one of these Facebook event RSVP campaigns. And the reason they're so beneficial is, if you're running one of these ads, sending people straight to the ticketing pages, people aren't that likely to purchase. Most likely, people aren't going to click on your ad or interact with it. Then you can't remarket to them. Where when it comes to the Facebook events, even if I just visit your Facebook event, I don't hit interested or going or like do anything on there, you actually can now remarket to me strictly because I visited that event. So it's a great way that you can kind of get people in your marketing funnel and then maybe run a campaign later down the road remarketing to the people that were interested. But if they take it a step further, hit interested or going or something like that, now they're automatically getting organic notifications from Facebook so they don't forget about the event. So, in a lot of cases, for like the campaign example that we were looking at earlier, that was actually a Facebook RSVP campaign. And, they got like a 20x return on ad spend from it. They got a really, really good return on it just because a lot of people liked purchasing straight through the Facebook event itself. But they also got, around 600 people that RSVP to their event that maybe didn't purchase then, but would be likely to purchase at a point down the road. So just wanted to let you know, we do currently have that Facebook issue with this not being able to pull in. My apologies here, but that should be sorted pretty soon. Get back to it. You can always boost it on Facebook in the interim as well. And we also have engagement style campaigns. But in all honesty, y'all, these kind of go after a different subset of people that like might be likely to like or comment, but like haven't got off their butts and like gone to a live event in like 10 years or something like that. So normally, if you're gonna run something for engagement style, you might want to run like the RSVP to the Facebook event instead. But let's choose our event. We'll hit continue, and pretty smooth sailing from here on out. So, y'all, the way that you run campaigns or pay for these campaigns is you pay for it directly through your Facebook ad account. Kind of think of this as like the credit card you set up with Facebook. So you kind of set up this account, set up a payment method. If I want to run a $100 budget, that basically is billed directly through whatever card is on file for this ad account. So I'll just kind of choose the ad account I want to run it from here, and then I can scroll through, choose the Facebook page that I would like to run my ad from here, and then also choose the Instagram here as well. And then lastly, if you know what a Facebook pixel is, if you have multiple, you could always choose which one you want us to put on your ticketing page. If you don't know what it is, don't worry, I'll go over it later, but you actually don't need to worry about it as we do all this stuff for you automatically. So let's go ahead and click continue here to go to the next step. Normally, we're also always pulling in the location of your event. My event that I selected was a digital event in the US. So if you ever leave the box blank, it's just kind of targeting the US by default. So in this section, if I wanted to put in something like New York, easily just type out like any location, market, or zip code. Normally, you want to go a little broad, y'all. So, like, you probably, unless you know people aren't like it's somewhere like LA, like there's no way I'm driving like 50 miles on like a Thursday afternoon. It's going to take me like 3 hours to get to your event. So just be conscious of that. But in most cases, like it's okay to cast the net a little bit broader. You're going to catch more fish in there anyway, as Facebook kind of optimizes it down or like, finds people in the pool that are more likely to actually purchase. So it's okay to go a little bit broader. When I was in the Bay Area and we ran campaigns, we did like a, 50-mile radius there. Facebook optimizes it. I've tried firsthand, guys. You're not going to be able to beat Facebook in most cases. Their optimization is too good. So don't let your ego get in the way of having you get a really good campaign like I did in the past. And then down towards the bottom, this is where you can do the age range. Kind of similar thing with the age range, y'all. You don't need to put in like I've done this $100,000 worth of sample size of my own spend on digital campaigns, A/B testing. Can I beat Facebook in terms of actually them figuring out my target demographic? One campaign, me putting in kind of the age range I thought, the other one leaving it open or a little bit broader, letting Facebook figure it out. There wasn't a statistically significant difference whatsoever, and it honestly would have just performed better if I just put it all in one campaign. So don't try to beat it. It's more important to like set a lower bound, or if you're serving an event that has alcohol, Facebook is going to flag you if you're not targeting people that are 21 and up. So simple way to change that in this section. Now, thank you all for your very comments. We also have Kelsey, first-time home buyers as well, and dare to date differently. A workshop teaching tools and techniques to attract for attraction and dating. Wow, we got a pretty cool, diverse mix of everybody in here. Thank you very much for your comments. I appreciate it, y'all. So we have kind of two different versions of this. What you're looking at is like the more advanced version for you Ads Manager pros or stuff that want to do there, or people that, once you get the hang of it, you want to take it to the next level. But let's swap this over to kind of the audience view that all of you will see normally when you get started here. So I know we had kind of a lot of yoga folks in the class here today, so maybe we could use that starting for our example here. The most common type of targeting when you run a Facebook ad campaign, or if you ran a campaign on Facebook before, is something called interest, demographic, or behavior targeting on Facebook. Now, this type of targeting basically allows you to target people that might be interested in a specific topic or whatever on Facebook, or are in a certain demographic, or have a certain behavior, like maybe Android user. I don't know why you'd want to target Android users. I'm just kidding. I was a 10-year Android user myself, but certain things like that kind of falls under behavior targeting. So normally all we're doing here, y'all, is we're just typing out some stuff like related to your event. So if we're targeting yoga, we're advertising a yoga event. Let's just go ahead and start out by typing out like the name or kind of what our event's actually about. If we have a home buyer, type out home buyers or real estate or things like that. If we have like open house events, for home selling, do stuff like that. For like Adam, if you're doing like online vegan cooking classes, type out something like cooking classes. For Shanann, I really hope I got your name right. Correct me if I got it wrong, but sip and paint classes, we might type things out like art activities or even things like birthdays. You can target people that have birthdays in a specific month. So if the fam's looking for like a good birthday event to do, you can always kind of use some behavior or demographic targeting as well. Elizabeth, if you were doing stuff on like teaching tools in dating and attraction, you could maybe try typing out like dating or target singles and things like that as well. You do also need to get approval from Facebook if you want to be able to run dating ads, but you should be able to do that no problem. So in this section, let's roll with the yoga example that we were talking about here. So we typed out yoga, we see yoga. I always just like typing out the kind of the main thing of the event a couple times and just like looking through to see what Facebook suggests. Not every time it's going to be relevant or anything like that. So we just kind of type through, look for stuff that's relevant in here. Yeah, maybe people interested in hot yoga or something like that. And then we could also type out things like, health and wellness or something like that. So, we got health and wellness in here. Meditation, maybe that's another good one that we could add into here. And then, y'all, once you actually have a couple interests here in this section, Facebook will actually help suggest some similar things for you. Sometimes it's random, like, we might put all this stuff in here and then we get like Sylvester Stallone, like The Expendables 3 is like an interest, like makes literally absolutely no sense, but you generally get the gist and they're pretty good with it, especially if you're hitting big stuff like this. So you can see, maybe I want to put in like spirituality or something like that, mantra or prayer or something like that. just always consider, y'all, it's quality over quantity here, especially if you're hitting big things like this that probably have, millions and millions of people in the area that are interested in it. Even if I maybe took out Mantra and just left this as like 5 right here, this is probably a good amount of interest for the campaign that we're running. You just want to be considering like, okay, how big were these interests? If these interests were only like 100 people in our area and this audience max was like 500 people, that's probably way too tiny. Generally, unless you're in like the middle of like Montana targeting a 10-mile radius and you have like 500 people in your town, that's something where you could literally just like leave it open, target everybody in the whole area. But if you're in somewhere bigger like, New York, Atlanta, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, or something like that, generally these audiences are going to be pretty big. So you'll probably want to shoot to have them over at least like, I'd say at least 50K, given the size of like the market that you have, to maybe hopefully over 100K. I always, I'm in LA, so I like to roll with at least over 100, sometimes even getting upwards in the million range, just so I have this really big top of the funnel that Facebook can kind of optimize down and work with. As a challenge, when it's too tiny, you're kind of constricting Facebook's ability to really optimize things. So, y'all, before we kind of jump over to the next part, any questions on like this interest or behavior demographic targeting? Feel free to just like drop a 1 in the chat if it's making sense, drop a 2 in the chat if it's not making sense, and a question if you potentially have one on this. But I hope this kind of makes sense generally to everybody. These plus buttons too, they'll pull in the next recommended stuff from Facebook. So instead of maybe hitting like, plus 20, we get a bunch of random interests here that don't make sense. I generally like looking through to kind of see what gets suggested here. Thank you for the ones, everybody. I really appreciate it. And just one thing to note, I don't know if we have any like music or comedy folks in the chat, but what I used to do when I worked in the concert venue is, let's say, for example, I'm advertising like the Beatles and Rolling Stones cover band or something like that. I would go to somewhere like Spotify or Google, look up, what are the next 20, like 50 related artists to those in that section, and it would take me like 25 minutes to type them out one by one. So empowerment for girls, how many interests should be added? I'd say maybe as a good mix, I try to shoot at least probably having 5. Again, it's quality over quantity in these sections. So will they get spammed if they don't match the event? One interesting thing is like, let's say we added all these in here, and then like all of a sudden, or we just added something in like completely random, like we put in kids toys or something like that. One thing that would happen a lot was Facebook can't match everything, and if you ever type something out and it doesn't show up, you're kind of just out of luck. You can't really target everything. There's no freaking rhyme or reason to it whatsoever. But if you had something in here that's a little bit out of the ordinary, Facebook kind of optimizes it down anyway, so it's not the end of the world, and it figures that stuff out pretty quick. But for my music and comedy folks, let me show you this just so we have it in here. So like, let's say, for example, I wanted to build an audience where I targeted similar artists to the Beatles. Instead of doing this process that'll take you 15 to 20 minutes, you'll type everything out and then you can only hit 25% of these artists or interests in the first place. Basically, type out any artist that's on Spotify. This also works for comedians as well, and boom, will automatically generate an audience for you of these interests kind of related to whoever you type out. You can always do more than one. So let's say it was Beatles and Rolling Stones. Let's just go ahead and type it out. We can choose it, and then boom, within 5 seconds, we automatically have our interest audience built. So just if you're in music or comedy, nice little shortcut for some of y'all to use here in this section. But if you're not in music or comedy, you'll simply want to type them out. You don't need to have this many in here. Just prioritize quality over quantity. And just kind of one last thing to note, if you are advertising like a family-friendly event or something like that, a big secret targeting tip I can give you is you can hit the parents demographic target. Don't ask me how Facebook knows this. Facebook knows, or I think Facebook knows this because everybody posts when their child is born on Facebook nowadays. But basically, if I wanted to hit, people with kids in 6 to 8, it's kind of creepy if I'm being honest here, but you basically can do this, like target all parents. I was working with like a kind of Christmas type event or like ice skating types events. This thing is like pure magic for actually driving sales. So I would recommend, if you do have family friendly events or want to try stuff like this, parents demographic targeting is an absolute gold mine for you to use. And getting back to our friend too, that was talking about the sip and paint class earlier, you also can do stuff like birthdays. So we could target people with birthdays in the month, or birthdays coming up in a week, or friends of people with birthdays to have some influence for birthdays. Lots of crazy stuff you can do with targeting. And then beyond that, y'all, one unique thing about our platform that's not automatically done if you build a campaign in Facebook is actually including a remarketing component. We know from the data that we've seen statistically, people that purchase for your events or interact with your pages are substantially more likely to purchase or register for your events than people that are in these interest or demographic audiences. And if you're trying to do this in Ads Manager, it's probably going to take you around 10 minutes to build these audiences. If you can even find how to get to this section in the first place, and then you have to do all these extra steps to like include them in your campaign. Just automatically, even if you don't touch this, we automatically include people that interact with your socials. So basically your Facebook and your Facebook events. Hence why Facebook events are really important. As we get 1,000 people to interact with it, that's another 1,000 people that we could target here in this section. So it basically helps, remarket to those that already have a little bit higher purchase intent. But if you have an Instagram business account, needs to be a business account, can't be a normal account, can't be a creator. It's just a type of account that you swap it over to. You can also remarket to your Instagram traffic as well as people that interact with that Facebook pixel we were talking about. To briefly talk about the Facebook pixel, I'm assuming many of you have kind of heard this, but it's a little ambiguous what it is. All a Facebook pixel is, y'all, is it's a tiny little piece of code that normally is installed on a website or a web page or something like that. We actually do this automatically for you nowadays, so you don't really even have to worry about it. But basically, this helps you if you've ever seen an ad for an item that you've looked at on a website or heard the term cookies. That's exactly what this is. So it basically helps you remarket to people that visit any web page that this is installed on. In most cases, it's installed on your Eventbrite ticketing pages. Now, one thing to note is that after kind of the recent Apple changes that occurred in March, if you're an iOS user and you download a new app, you might see something that says, do you want to deny tracking or do you want to accept tracking? We're seeing like 90+% of people opting out of this type of tracking. And it totally makes sense. We psychologically as humans normally will choose the default option presented to us in most cases. And especially with privacy being a more hot topic of concern nowadays, in a lot of cases, we're just opting out of this. Like I've I've even opted out of it myself, and I teach ads for a living here. So basically, what that ends up happening is if somebody opts out, you're not going to be able to track if they make a purchase that results from that. The pixel is also a way that you would kind of track purchases. So like that 20x return on ad spend, that was how that works. But then second, you wouldn't be able to remarket to them. But don't worry about that, is actually most people that visit your website or interact in most cases are the same people interacting with you on Facebook or Instagram, so you can still market to those people. And then B, one really unique thing about Boost is we actually have something called offline tracking, which if somebody uses the same email to buy for your Eventbrite event that they use for Facebook, we can actually map those purchases. So it's kind of one of the best things. Pretty much no other ticketing platform has this right now, and it's something that most people in the event space actually don't have unless you're an Eventbrite user. But it's basically the best human way possible now that we can still track purchases that result from your campaigns to give you data on what's going on. And just briefly before we jump here, y'all, please feel free to drop questions that you have on the audience section. But I just want to preview the more advanced section as well. Within the next coming months, I've spent the last couple months kind of mapping out like every single scenario for creators of different budgets, different types of events. Basically, I normally in the past would kind of help consult and advise people on what audiences should we include in your campaign. So if we just left it as this, y'all, we're still covering all of our bases, but it's almost like we're betting everything on one audience going after new people, and we don't have other audiences that might perform better that we could shift budget over to. So you can always add in, if you switch to the event section, you can always A/B test different audiences. We have it really easy to create any of these complicated Facebook audiences, but if there's, one extra audience you could add that I would recommend, especially if you have past buyer data on Eventbrite, if you've ever heard of something called a lookalike on Facebook before, if you're familiar with the meme of like the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other that look exactly the same, it's kind of the exact same thing. Think of a lookalike audience, y'all, as it does the same purpose as like an interest, behavior, or demographic, where it helps you go after new people. But instead of you figuring out the audience yourself, you give Facebook some data and it figures out the audience for you. And statistically, from the return on ad spend that we've seen, are the highest revenue generating audience for going after new people. The best one that you can possibly do is use the data of people that bought from you in the past. So this here, we just choose our Eventbrite organization, builds us an audience of people that are very similar to past buyers. And if you don't actually happen to have any past buyer data, we actually have our own version of lookalike audiences called smart audiences in the platform that'll help you tap into Eventbrite's network and reach to target people in your area that have bought for similar other Eventbrite events and use that data to also help you go after new people. So we got a question from Adam. I tried to target people that visited our Eventbrite listings, but when the ad went live, no budget got spent. I don't understand why the Facebook pixel is installed. So Adam, potentially the reason why you might have ran into that is pixel audiences are dying. as 90+% of people are opting out of pixel tracking, let's say, for example, you used to have 1,000 people in that audience. That audience, might only be around 100 people now, and sometimes those audiences are even too small to target, or Facebook won't even run that audience, as it would be crazy expensive for you to market to such a small audience. So, just if I'm going off the top of my head, there could have been, a bug with that or something like that. But just knowing what I know now, Facebook pixel audiences are dying. More people are opting out. It might even be that we're kind of regressing back to the billboard days in a lot of ways of not having that same type of remarketing data. So my honest assumption, or my honest guess, if you were using a pixel audience to remarket to those people that were visiting your web pages, is that just most people are opting out nowadays. So the audience might not have been big enough to actually have Facebook spend on that audience. So I hope that answers your question. I'm thinking that probably is the context of what was going on. And lastly, if you were ever trying to get more granular, or wanted to put in like a max for your age range, or control where your ad was running or stuff like that, this section just gives you more control. But we're actually, in the next couple months going to be automating all this entirely, so that basically you kind of put in your budget. We suggest these extra audiences so that you are taking the benefit of A/B testing for the best audiences accessible or usable for you if you don't want to put in the time to do stuff like this. So keep an eye out. We got a lot of exciting stuff coming that I've been working on here too as well. But let's continue, y'all. That's pretty much the audience thing. If anybody has any questions, or you're watching this on a little bit of a delay too, just feel free to let me know as well. And then we also can do recommended schedule or budgets here too as well. But if you want to customize it, you're setting a start date. Honestly, the time doesn't really even matter. I just kind of set it as a default. Honestly, the end time is kind of the main thing that matters, unless you're scheduling it out in the future. And then for your budget, you can always swap between total or daily, and we'll always tell you if like you're not meeting the budget for what you actually have in there. So y'all, to let you know, the way that your budget works on Facebook is your budget equates directly, or directly correlates to how many people you reach. So basically what we're doing is we're paying to get in front of people with an ad campaign. Normally in somewhere like the United States, around every maybe $10 we spend, we're probably reaching anywhere, give or take, between 700 to maybe 2,000 plus people. Kind of depends on the type of audience you're using. If it's remarketing, it's more expensive, but they have higher purchase intent. If it's interest or broader, have a little bit more wiggle room, so you'll reach more people. Or if you choose to target worldwide, you might reach like 10,000 people for who you target, but Facebook tends to optimize your entire budget and spend it all in like Indonesia or Malaysia, so probably don't target worldwide, or set up a separate audience for stuff like that. And the minimum daily budget just depends on how many audiences you have. So kind of by default, we're including 2 audiences. This will change down the road to include more to have better A/B testing. But for the mix I had here, where I was rocking with 3 audiences, 1 interest, 1 remarketing, and then this lookalike, our minimum daily budget is going to be $3 a day. But the reason you don't want to add too many audiences, or like A/B test way too many creatives at a low budget, is you're not actually giving Facebook enough room to breathe to reach enough people for each variation or each audience. So then it's going to optimize poorly. One kind of common misconception, or something I did when I first started, was I thought A/B testing, best thing in the world. Let me go ham and let me make 100 variations. But that killed my campaigns, is Facebook didn't have enough budget to put towards each one of those kind of audiences or creatives to figure out what's working and where's the budget going to be most impactful. So kind of as a good rule of thumb, Facebook kind of recommends spending closer to like $5 per audience. So with the mix that I had, maybe a budget of like $15 a day would have been absolutely perfect, but you always can spend, the minimum if you want. It'll just optimize slower and reach less people. That's pretty much all. And no major difference between doing total budget or daily spend. It's all whatever makes the most sense for you. If you're going to be changing it consistently, daily spend might be a little bit easier, but if it's fixed, just rock with total. That's what I normally roll with. And y'all, we are pretty much at the end of the woods here, so thank you for bearing with me, as I know we had a lot of stuff we were talking about today. But simply all we're doing in the last step is customizing what do we want that ad creative to look like. So we'll automatically pull in the image associated with the event you select as well, or if it's a Facebook event, the image with that. So if you're rocking with that and that's the one you want to use, you probably don't really need to change much, but you can always add in new images or videos here in this section. So I could hit add new, and then I could go ahead in here and add in another image if I wanted to do A/B testing. But again, don't go overboard with it. The only main thing that you need to do when it comes to this is A/B test the image or video. We don't even read nowadays, and we have 2-second attention spans. So like if you're gonna A/B test anything, just do the most impactful thing and A/B test like maybe 2 creatives, like 1 image, 1 video, 2 videos. Video content always does better than images, so generally try to use that for the most part. And then additionally, like this is a, kind of like landscape type image that's going to look beautiful on Facebook and kind of Instagram as well. But for Instagram stories, it's not the prettiest. So I know we don't have a lot of stuff to work with, but if you have like a design team or somebody that you're working with kind of gives you a vertical asset to use, you can always click on this little pen icon underneath whatever you add in. Go in here, customize the image or the crop or the video or the thumbnail on a per placement basis. So if we kind of want to go here and change up the story one, really easy for us to do that in this section. And then just kind of going on for the other ones here as well, we'll pull in a little bit of default text for the post text. That's basically what shows up above the ad when you're actually running it here in this section. But in all honesty, guys, please feel free to scrap what we write here. Bring your own flavor, bring your own character, bring your own personality, as everybody can spot when an ad was written by a robot from a freaking mile away. So you probably, we're all in the events. We're all pretty fun, charismatic people. You probably could think of something a little bit more creative within a minute or two that would work a little bit better here in this section. From Adam, when I tried to add my event from Facebook, it asked for a venue. What do you suggest I should do if it's an online event? Oh man, that's actually a good question. I forgot what I did. I don't know if it lets you like skip having a venue or something like that, or if you're able to put in the United States. I'd made my online events a little bit further back, and I think I might have ran into that myself. I'm not sure the exact workaround I did. I think I might have either A, been able to skip it, or B, put in like a broader location or something like that, or like make up a venue or, or something like that, as long as you're kind of indicating it's online. Or there might even be a separate option that you specifically choose. Don't let you skip. Is there an option for like a? I thought there was a designated option for like online events too as well. I could check on that too as well a little later, but I feel like I remember running into that myself when I ended up making an event a little while back. Sorry, I'm not the expert on the actual event creation end, so my apologies if I can't answer that fully, my brother. But y'all, getting back to it for the other questions here, link headline, that's just kind of what shows up above this section. Getting back to the post text, sorry, the main three things you want to address is use language that fosters a sense of urgency. Urgency is what gets people to buy or sell. So let's say, for example, you're going to have a discount or an upcoming sale, or like tickets are going hot, they're going to sell out quick. Mention that in the ad is we cannot assume that people seeing your ad are going to know that off the top of their head or even click through to the page. So you'll just want to make sure that you actually address that urgency so that, we prompt people to register or purchase a little quicker. Let them know what the event is, a little bit about what it's about, and when it's happening. Kind of that's the main things that you need to address somewhere in your ad. You don't need to overblast it in a ton of components, but just make sure you give people some context of what's going on, when it's happening, where it's happening, and a little bit of language that kind of fosters some urgency. Link description. You can literally just leave this be, get tickets on Eventbrite. Nobody even reads this, doesn't even show up in half the placements anymore. Just describes like why would somebody click on this button. And in most cases, they're clicking there to like RSVP to a Facebook event, or they're clicking there. This doesn't even show up for Facebook events, but for these types of ads, just leave it be, should be fine. And then I'd recommend use that buy tickets button. Generally might seem like a little bit of a shotgun sell, but in all honesty, it converts the best for any of the ones that we've seen. So unless you're maybe doing something that's like a free event or multiple showtimes, like get showtimes or like a sign up or book now or something like that, just look through them, see if there's something a little more relevant. But if you are selling paid tickets, just rock with that and you should be good. And you also can do like a carousel ad if you want to. But in most cases, if you're just advertising like a single event, roll with this. Carousel is beneficial if you have a lot of like recurring events and just kind of want to set up one ad that runs consistently through the course of the month. And then kind of if we made this carousel here, kind of each you'd hit this button to add in like the link one for your first Eventbrite event. We do this to like link two. Post text is going to be the same for all the carousel items that you do, but then these components, basically, if you add them in, you're kind of just going down the road. So if I added like a, second one here, like a, I don't know, one-time event, um, get tickets. If we just added something like that, add an extra variation, it kind of works like linear down the road. So once this generates, you'd see on like the next item on the card that like, this is using all of this uses the same post text, and then all of the other ones here in this second section basically look like this. But in most cases, if you're not doing recurring events or something like that, you're probably better off just maybe doing a little A/B testing, kind of running a normal ad as well. Just stick to A/B testing images and videos, and you should be good. And y'all, that pretty much is the actual last step of creating the campaign. So I know it took us like, for like maybe 20, 30 minutes as we went through explaining it here today. But I promise you, once you get it down, you can literally build campaigns in less than 5 minutes. So like, if you put me on the clock, we just choose our event. here you're running it from the same stuff most times, so you normally can hit continue. Maybe your events are in the same location, or we're just putting in a different location here instead. We continue. Maybe we're using the exact same target audiences, so we don't need to change anything. So then maybe all we're doing is like, okay, boom, we got a new schedule and maybe new budget here in this section, and then maybe we're just uploading a new video or kind of changing up a little bit of text to reflect the new event. So we really tried to build this tool in a way that the more campaigns you actually build, the substantially easier it's going to be for you to build new campaigns in the future to hopefully help you kind of create a more rinse and repeatable process for what you're running. So what I actually used to do back in the day is I would save drafts of different common types of campaigns I'd run. So this was like, from last week's webinar that if I wanted to duplicate this and copy over all this same information, maybe it's more like kind of Mad Libs where I'm filling in the blanks or just changing a couple things instead of reinventing the wheel and starting from scratch every time. So y'all, that actually is pretty much it that I wanted to cover today. Feel free to just drop a couple questions if you have anything that we should address here before you jump off. But just also let you know we do have contesting tools here if you wanted to basically create a nice contest page to help you collect emails or drive social actions like people sharing your event across. Great way that you could just kind of spin something up organically, incentivizes people to enter and gets you a lot more reach. A lot of creators also like using these, and these are totally free. You don't need to have a paid plan or anything with us to use these. And then also smart links that you can use your own custom domain. You can get these set up. So if you're looking for an alternative to something like Bitly or anything like that, we do offer free custom domains as well. So if you wanted to get this set up specifically with your domain, you can totally do that. And it actually feeds in pretty nice to the ad campaigns that you end up running. So y'all, that was pretty much it for today. We'll just kind of take one last quick second. Any questions, anybody? Anything that we can maybe touch on a little bit more next time? I pretty much do the same one every Thursday, and I'm hopefully going to have some more like detailed sessions in the future, maybe covering some more advanced topics like target audiences and things like that, auditing campaigns or anything like that. But feel free to let me know if you have any feedback for me too, anything I didn't cover that well, anything I can improve on the next time as well. And I really appreciate y'all spending your time with us. I know there again a lot more fun things we could probably be doing than talking about Facebook and Instagram ads. So thank you very much for carving the time out of your busy day, coming up here to learn, paying attention. I know we had a lot of concurrent viewers that just like watched through the whole time. So thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it, everybody. I'll just give it one more quick sec to see if anything comes in here. But thank you again, everybody. I really appreciate it. Again, my name has been Sam Jameson with the Eventbrite Customer Experience team. We'll be back here doing it again next Thursday. Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope you have yourself a lovely rest of your day. See if there's anything else. If you have any questions for us, do we have to worry about people on our list that unsubscribe being accidentally re-added into user campaigns? So Eric, my apologies. I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head. For a little context on my end, my team, or my company actually, if you'd ever heard of a company called ToneDen, that's the company we originally were. So we were an event marketing and music marketing startup company that was basically building all this ad automation technology, and we got acquired by Eventbrite last November. And basically, we've taken kind of our platform, combined it in Eventbrite with some of their existing features. So the email campaign function is one that's a little bit new for me and one that I'm still learning myself. I would really hope that it automatically does that, but I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head. Natasha, thank you so much. Nothing wrong with discussing ways to expand business? Of course, fantastic. Your question above, please. Comment for girls. Let me scroll up a little bit more. You had the question above. I don't know if the other question came through, but your one that I saw above was how many interests should be added. I'd say around 5 interests. If that wasn't your question, please feel free to kind of retype it so I can address it. As that was the last one I saw. Anything coming up for LinkedIn in the future? No plans on anything for LinkedIn advertising. LinkedIn advertising for events. I don't know if it's as. I mean, personally, I haven't done the research to tell you definitively whether it's better or not. I generally find from my knowledge of LinkedIn advertising and what I've done in the past, it's really good as kind of like a sales lead acquire mechanism. So like, if I was trying to acquire a new customer to use this or something like this, I could target people that work at at specific jobs or something like that. But generally when it comes to things like, event marketing and things like that, Facebook and Instagram are still the kings. TikTok is getting there. It's not entirely yet. The demographic's still a lot younger too, so Most people on there don't have like disposable income to use or things like that, or for marketing like a 21 and up event, it's probably not the best place. But if I had to kind of put money on like what other ad platform maybe within the next 5 years is substantially going to improve and actually kind of be a competitor to Facebook and Instagram, my money would be on TikTok. Snapchat's kind of it's like the same detail, really young demographic that's using it for the most part. I spent a lot of money on Snapchat ads in the past and didn't really see the best effectiveness. So do you we got a question from Jen. If you do your ad through Eventbrite directly, do you not need to do it through Facebook as well? So basically, this is a kind of a replacement for you working in Ads Manager. So all the campaigns too that you run here will actually still show up in Ads Manager. So if you like looking at that view or the interface, that's kind of how it runs through Facebook's API. Basically, you build a campaign in here, it'll also show up in there. Empowerment for Girls. Thanks for retyping your question. So you have a business phase and a Facebook Teach. We hosted a virtual event on Eventbrite for a nonprofit last fall, but when I tried to connect Eventbrite to Facebook, it goes to my business page and not my nonprofit. Let me think on that for 1 second. So the way things normally work in Facebook is all right, connects to your business page, not your nonprofit. You might want to potentially go into the settings and then desync it. One thing that you could try if it's syncing to like a different Facebook is it's probably trying to default sync to whatever is mainly synced in your browser right now. So you might want to try opening like an incognito browser. Go ahead and log into Eventbrite in that incognito and then try to resync Facebook. And then it should give you the option to type in what you would actually like to sync or connect in that section. Normally in the way like syncing for this platform works and for Eventbrite works is you kind of sync to one person's like personal Facebook, and then all the pages, ad accounts, business manager accounts, kind of whatever you have access to, it's kind of like the key to open the door, and then you have access to everything that's in the room. So if I'm maybe understanding it correctly, I could be misunderstanding it as well. It might be potentially syncing to like a Facebook that's not yours, so you might potentially want to try disconnecting it within the settings, go into an incognito tab, then go ahead and try syncing it. It'll prompt you to enter in the login info that you'd like to sync, and then you can have it go directly to where you are. But if not, feel free to reach out to the support as well. That probably should be able to give you a little bit more guidance as well. And Eric, thank you very much. I appreciate your comment, boss, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week as well. And that's pretty much it. We are almost at time here, but any other questions? I think that was most of the questions that we had in here today. And I gotta kill this delay. It's killing me. Y'all type these questions out and I see it like 15 seconds later. Perfect. Appreciate it. But yeah, that is all today. Again, my name has been Sam. Just let us know if you have any questions. Reach out, and I really appreciate you spending your time with us. Have yourselves a blessed rest of your Thursday. Enjoy your Friday and have a fantastic weekend as well, everybody. Get some fun in. Y'all deserve it, and we will see you very soon. Take care. No problem, man. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.